Okay, so we're going to be looking at the multi-level token module for Foundry Virtual Tabletop. So this is what it looks like, is the multi-level tokens right here in the middle. Once you have it activated, that's all you got to do. You don't have to do anything else special. And that's it. So we'll minimize this. Alright, so what you're going to do for it, you're going to draw a square or circle, whatever works best for you. Let me remove this one. And you draw a square anywhere that you're going to want to make a teleportation spot. So like right here, you'll open it up. You can change the text, you can change the font size, make it whatever you want it to say. You can do it two ways. You can either make it a one-way portal so they can go in and can't come out, or you can make it a two-way portal. So the most important thing is that where it says teleport identifier, that has to be exactly the same for if you're making a two-way point, or if you're making a double-way point, it has to be the same or it will not work. But we'll do a one-way port at first, and then we'll show both ways. So you set up the port, make sure you update the bottom or it will not work, and then you're going to set up the other portal. So we will do it on this side, and we'll just put right here in this corner, and you go to your settings, same thing, but instead of it being the in, we're going to make it the out. Same thing, test, update, and we'll come to Irina here, and as soon as she steps onto this portal, she will teleport to the other one. And then we'll set it up for doing it as a two-way portal now. So go back to your drawing tool, it'll be in the select mode. Then you can go to your settings, go to multi-level, you just have them both checked at the same time, make sure test and everything's the same, update, and then you do the same thing for this one. Go to the settings, update, multi-level, check, update, that's it, and go back to play mode, and Irina will teleport to that one and teleport back to that one. So this works for just about anything, and a nice thing is you can do it to actually set up between different maps. So if you want to create a portal for one map to another. So we'll use that as an example. And this is like, oh look, there's a tiger. So as you, on mine, I have it already pre-set up before, so when she goes to the top of the stairs, she'll teleport to the next map. So as soon as she steps on the next tile, she's gone. So I'll go to my upstairs floor, so the second floor, and there she is right there at the top of the staircase. So I have it set for both ways, so whenever she goes up or down, I have it really small and kind of in a gray, so I mean, I know that they're there, but you know, if anybody else was looking, they couldn't see it. If they were watching my recording, they probably would barely notice it unless I really make note of it. But it works same way if I make them go downstairs, and once they hit that second step, they're back down to the first floor, and there she is on there. So I also was going to do, and then the way I set it up is I have the stairs completely blocked, so they can only go up the one way, so that way you don't accidentally have someone teleport when they shouldn't, and then that way it keeps it very secure of how you want to make sure they go to where they want to go. Also, I was going to look at some of the automation functions that I was doing in some of my previous videos. I really like making combat as fast as possible because I hate making people roll back and forth and click back and forth on either on their player card, or even if I set up the token hood, like had the heads-up display. That's not as bad, but I hate going back and forth, and I like it to be fast and smooth. That's why I'm trying to make my game as automated as possible. So with the automation, I'll go back to my module so I can show you how I set up. The most important one is MIDI quality of life, MIDI MID quality of life. The mini quality of life doesn't work anymore, so this is the one you want to be using. That's mainly the only one that I'm really using, and I set everything up in there. And I go to configure settings and MIDI quality of life, and I usually leave most of this unchecked. I don't like to see my players' whispers, and I don't think I messed with anything in here, but the most important things in the workflow sheets. So the only thing I do sometimes like to keep unrolled is skill checks, like saves and like that's but one of the few things that I like. So every situation's different. I might be like, oh well, based on that, yeah, you can roll with advantage, or oh, because you fell on one knee, do disadvantage. So I usually leave that one unchecked, but I usually do that. And the way I have it set up, especially for like a keyboard, shift and control. For some people that aren't as computer savvy, I'd say, all right, shift is the big button. That'll give you advantage. Disadvantage is control, the small button. And then if they roll a critical, then they can hold alt. And then versatile, they can do control. And then I like to compress both things in the chat window as much as possible. So I'll check both of those. Walls blocking is very important. That works great for especially certain effects that like fireball, things like that wouldn't hit. That one is excellent. Always make it sure that that one's checked. Attack and damage for fast forwarding, because that way it doesn't make me have to apply the damage if I don't need to. It makes it a little bit faster on my end. And then I always make them have to target somebody so they don't accidentally target somebody on accident or hit somebody on accident. But it is very easy to fix if they do, but I always just make them target so that way, like, okay, you have to hit the person that you're hitting and go from there. And then it'll automatically roll the damage if the attack hits. That has to be activated. I like it to search the spell description. I think that's convenient. Also, apply any immunities and physical. If you don't do that, some things won't actually activate. And then auto apply, item effects to a target. So if there's certain effects like that, okay. And then that should be good on that. And then yes to damage card. And then make sure you save the settings when you're done. And that's that. I also really like a module, which is I don't see it on this list, but I'll turn it on or show you. I like the where is it? It's eyes. The Elandril's NPC quick actions. I love this one personally. It works really good for me, especially when I don't have to click on NPCs all the time. And I'll usually look to see if they have anything specific, and I'll check before I do anything like any major combat, especially if there's multiple enemies. But I like the fact of being able to have their action right there. I just right click and immediately pulls it up. Makes my life 1,000 times easier. Now I don't have to go back and forth to it. And then even does the same thing for spells. So for him, all of his spells that he's got does the same thing. It will show you a 0 if they don't have any actives, if they haven't spell slots. So you'll have to make sure, if you say he's got 3 spell slots, as soon as it types for me, and then so he's got 3. Otherwise, it won't recognize it in the thing. But you can still cast it. It'll just say, and see now it updated, so now it shows he's got 3. So now we'll test doing. We'll do it a couple ways. We'll do ranged combat, and then we'll do melee combat. So for Irina here, she's going to want to attack the armored saber-tooth tiger here. I also was dabbling with one. I sometimes like it and sometimes don't. It really just depends. But combat focus is kind of interesting because it actually makes the combat tracker and chat window merge together. My only gripe with Foundry is that you cannot minimize the chat window like how you can other things, or have it like a pop-out window just like everything else. That's my only gripe with Foundry. I mean, I absolutely love Foundry, but that is my one and only critique that I've ever had with them, is that you can't, pop out the window. But you can, even when you turn that one effect on, it still doesn't give you the chat window, which I was hoping it'd be like kind of a little bit of a workaround. But you have to have, like, everything else has a pop-out window besides that one. That's my biggest gripe. But with the combat focus, you can stay in the combat tracker, and so you can have everybody in it and put everybody in combat, and then you can roll everyone's initiative, and then you'll start combat. Well, so I like the look at the module for it. I really like the turn marker, especially like if it's a really, really busy map, and sometimes you can kind of get lost, and especially if there's like a way more NPCs than there are player characters, then sometimes you can kind of lose them a little bit. This way, I think, is a really convenient way to keep everything pretty together, and it kind of makes it a little bit easier, and zeroes in on who's the next one. That's one thing I did actually kind of like about Fantasy Grounds, is that when you moved on the combat tracker, it kind of defaulted over and moved to whoever it was, and it'll even pop up in the chat window that, okay, it's this person's turn, which I really like. So say now the saber-tooth tiger is going to attack Irina. So with the quick combat, if you hold Alt and click on the person, it'll pull it up, and then I can just right click and say bite attack, and if it hits, which 20 hits her, it'll automatically apply the damage, and that's done. My bottom resource one isn't working for some reason. When I moved all these tokens over, when I imported into the forge, they got all jacked up, and my bar, like this should be 32 because I updated her because I was going to make her a little bit beefier so she could actually run around with the players a little bit, but it doesn't. It normally works better. I got to tweak some of the settings a little bit, so that's been a little annoying. But what's nice with the combat focus is so it shows the combat window with the turn. So then on the next turn, another thing I liked about the combat focus, and then with the turn order, it marks out the armored saber-tooth tiger, so that way it's like, okay, he's done. I also usually set it up so that I can see my resources. I always set the first one so attributes AC, so if I don't remember, I can kind of like, okay, so they got to get at least a 10 to hit. So now with Donovich, he's going to want to attack with Sacred Flame, but he has Irina targeted, and so she failed her save, so it automatically roll the damage. And then but then we'll do cure wounds for her as well. But instead of curing her, we're going to cure the tiger because maybe he's working with the saber-tooth tiger. So, and it'll ask, do you want to consume a spell slot? Yes. And it'll roll, and it already added his additional 6 health. So now he's a little bit doing a little bit better. So, and then once he's done, then Irina can attack, and then she has her parry action that I can do for a reaction, or I can use her rapier. And so I'm going to have the saber-tooth tiger attacked and attack with the rapier. 24 hit. She did her 6 damage. She's done. Then it automatically moves to the next round. Starts next person. Another thing that I added, or at least tweaked a little bit with the combat utility belt, was I like whenever a person is defeated and they drop their health to 0, that it automatically applies the effects of like unconscious and prone. So that way I don't have to remember to do it, or it'll kind of make them forget about it. So to demonstrate, so we'll make old Donovich here the target, and the old saber-tooth tiger is going to come in, and he's going to hit him with a big old bite attack, and he knocked him down. So he did a whopping 15 damage to him. So Donovich now, even though his bar on the bottom doesn't update, but it automatically applied the, whoops, they're both selected. It automatically applied the unconscious symbol, which I do kind of like that it'll actually kind of cover his face a little bit. That way you can ignore him. And then it'll actually update it on the combat tracker as well. And I'll actually have him knocked prone. So it'll actually, you can set it up so it'll actually skip people whenever if they're defeated. So if he's marked defeated, so you could say mark is defeated. So every time the combat tracker, it'll just skip him, and it'll just keep making sure that he stays off of it, and then that way it won't bring him back up again. But then say if Irina has some sort of spell, or she's got a potion, and she's like, oh, I got to save old Donovich, and she does something, gives him a potion, and then all of a sudden he has 2 hit points now, which, see, that's why my thing's all jacked up. So we'll give him 2 hit points. Okay, so now he's not dead anymore, but he's still knocked prone because he basically got revived, so he would still have to get up on his next turn. But the way I have it set up, it automatically removed the unconscious status. So now he's conscious at least, and he's not prone. And then on his turn, he can be like, okay, I'm going to waste half my movement to stand back up, and then he can remove the prone status effect. The way I did that, the way I set that up so that it automatically does that, is when I go to I have to have the combat utility belt connected. So the combat utility belt has to be on, and then you go to the computer, you go to enhance conditions. I usually set mine up like this. I usually just do the first 2, and the last 2 I usually skip the each round because sometimes it gets annoying if it keeps popping up. And then once you do that, then you set up your condition lab. So you have to set it up a specific way. So you have to make some triggers. So I'll show you how to make them real quick. So when you go to the trigger here, you're looking for making a attribute. Attribute is going to be HP. You're going to do the value. you're going to go less than or equal to and 0. And save and close. I already made one, so I don't need to do it. Then you'll do the same thing for, you'll do attribute, HP, value, equal to or greater than, and, or actually, sorry, greater than, and then 0. And then you would save and close. And then so what you do is you'd go to the condition lab. You have to make sure you set this to system and custom, and then it'll add the special icons. And then so you set this, the to error forward is to what will trigger the effect. So this will trigger to apply the condition. So when the attribute gets, the HP gets less than or equal to 0, it'll knock them unconscious. And then same thing I did for prone. I did the attribute HP 0 equals or less than or equal to 0 automatically applies the prone condition. And then to remove the unconscious, the remove the condition is you set the value anything greater than 0, and that'll apply that. And you can do that for a lot of some other ones, but I haven't really looked at some of the ones to code the exact things, but I plan to in the future. I'm gonna eventually go over all of them and how to set everything up or set special triggers. And then once you do that, you make sure you save the mapping, and that will remember that. I don't think there's anything else. I think that should do it for this video. I'm gonna make a couple more today and kind of go over a couple other different things, and maybe I can kind of go over things a little bit more in detail, and kind of go over how I use each one of my modules when I have them set up, or why I'm using specific ones. And but other than that, I think that that should do it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.